Hello everyone, this is my next project, this dining table. A customer dropped this off for me to refinish for them. I've actually refinished stuff for them in the past, so they asked me to refinish this table for them the same way, which is going to be white with a brown glaze. It's not going to have a stained top, it's going to be all white with a brown glaze. Oh, it's actually this big. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and get this thing cleaned off.
Before I get started on this project, I want to take a moment to announce my new furniture painting community. I'm going to start using this community as a hub for all of my social media accounts, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. This community will be accessible on Discord, which you can use from your PC or your mobile phone. Discord was originally made for gamers and offers text channels, voice channels, and all sorts of other options that will be great to act as a social community hub. We're going to have both new and veteran painters alike, so not only can you ask me questions, but you can also get advice from other painters that might have similar experience. You also will be able to see pictures of other people's projects that they're working on. You can post your own before and after photos to show off your work. And eventually I'll add a workday group voice chat where we can just kind of hang out and chit chat, keep each other company whenever we're working on our projects throughout the week. So everyone is welcome to join this Discord community. Discord is free to download. It has no ads or anything like that. So if you'd like to be able to connect with me on a regular basis, learn from others, share your own progress with the community, come check it out. I've got the Discord invite link in the video description. I also want to take this time to announce my Patreon page. If you don't know what Patreon is, it's a platform for creators like myself to connect with their followers on a more personal level in exchange for continued support. As much as I'd like to share every project that I work on, the recording alone adds an additional 2 to 3 hours to projects. To top it all off, I spend another 6 to 8 hours editing the video to be able to put out quality content that many of y'all enjoy. With continued support, I'll be able to do less of the furniture painting hustle and focus on myself as a creator and a teacher. I currently record from a really busted up cell phone that I drop about 12 times a day. The microphone's busted on it now, which is why my audio sounds muffled lately. So I'll be able to update my production value and put out videos more frequently and on a regular schedule so you'll know when to expect new content from me. Basically, you'll be a part of the community that makes my channel better. In return, those that support my channel will receive perks for being an important part of allowing me to grow as a creator and teacher. Depending on how much you donate, perks range from having a special VIP donor role on our Discord community with access to VIP channels, weekly behind-the-scene vlogs so you can see what really happens in the life of a furniture painter, maybe even a peek into my real life here and there, photo updates of my current project. Some of the higher donation tiers have perks like spray painting your name on my paint booth walls to immortalize you in the background of my future videos, your name at the end credits of my videos, one-on-one voice chat sessions. If you can't help on Patreon, that's fine. Just having you watch my videos regularly is plenty of support from the average viewer, and I really enjoy reading your comments on my videos. I reply to as many as I reasonably can. If you want more access to me, you don't have to donate. You can simply join our new Discord community that I mentioned before and connect with me that way. Be sure to take a moment and check out my Patreon page. The link's going to be in the description of this video. You'll be able to view all the donation tiers and perks for yourself. So thanks again for your time. Enough of the chit chat. Let's get back to work.
So this table really isn't that dirty, but it's always a good idea to wipe your project down with a cleaner, and trisodium phosphate is what I like to use. The one that I'm using is Dixie Belle's White Lightning Cleaner, and this is probably going to be the last of it. I've had this since like March, or maybe February of this year, so it's lasted me a long time. So I've got some warm water. Might have been a little too much, but give it a stir. Throw in some toast. Well, he's always happy. I'm gonna wipe this whole thing down with the toasty sponge and the TSP. To prep this piece, I'm going to be sanding it with 180 grit sandpaper. I lost the dust collection bag to this a long time ago, and someone had left me a tip in the comments to like use a rag and then use a rubber band or something to hold it down. And I used a zip tie, and it's working. So I don't remember who did that, but I appreciate it. Now I'm gonna take a dry rag and dust the whole table off, and then come back with a clean rag and wipe it down. I've got a clean, damp rag that I'm going to use for a final wipe down. Okay, I've got everything sanded, cleaned off, ready for paint. Normally at this point I usually spray a couple coats of primer to make sure that I seal in all of the bleeds and have a good bonding surface. You can see how the top is like really deglossed. The paint's gonna stick to that just fine. I also want to take the opportunity to show y'all what happens when you don't prime. So areas like this where I over sanded, and these areas right here that I over sanded, when you use water-based paint over wood, it'll interact with the oils in the wood, and as it dries, the oils will come up and it'll leave some stains. So let's remember what this looks like right now, and then we'll come back and see if this bleeds or not, and if it does, I can show you all that as an example, and I can also show you all how to treat it. Here's some more examples of over sanding here where it's probably going to bleed down here also. I'm going to be using the Wagner Flexio 5000 again as my sprayer. So this is Valspar's Mystique in the satin finish. This is like an antique white. Okay, there's the first coat. You can see it has a nice smooth finish. All this is still wet down here, but this is pretty much dry, and it's pretty smooth. I just did it real lightly, so it looks kind of spackly, but it's not. It's smooth. So you can see all along here, where I over sanded. These are the bleeds that are starting to show through. This is a perfect example for me to be able to show y'all guys what happens if you don't use primer, if you over sand. It doesn't always happen. If you can get away with not over sanding, then you won't have the discoloration. Like you can see it already discoloring right here. And this is one of the last things I painted. So one thing you can do to stop bleeds is as long as you sand and then paint one coat and kind of see if the bleeds are going to come up or not, then you can go around with spray paint and just spot treat these places. That's what I'm going to do. If you just keep trying to paint over stuff like this, it's going to keep coming up, and then when you put your top coat on, it's really going to come up. So the best thing to do is to either pre-treat the whole thing with a primer or spot treat it after your first coat. Alright, you can see now the bleeds are gone. It's still wet, so they still have a chance to show up once it dries out. If it shows up again, just do another coat. Usually I don't have to do any more than 2. This is 2 coats. It's about 50 degrees outside, so I'm going to let this dry for about 20 or 30 minutes and come back and check on it. Everything is dry now. I'm going to do my second coat. You might have noticed on the first coat that it wasn't spraying very fast, and I went and cleaned out the nozzle. This all comes apart and there's stuff in here that you need to clean. I did it before I put the white paint in here, but I guess I missed a spot, so I went in there and cleaned it again. So now that it's cleaned out and spraying better, you'll see that I'll be able to spray it much faster. I thought it was feeling pretty slow. Okay, there's the second coat. It went by much faster. I'm probably going to need 1 or 2 more coats. So I'm going to let this dry and come back and hit it again. Okay, this is going to be the third coat. This is the last coat that I just sprayed, the third coat. Looks really great. Just gonna let this dry for about 30 or 40 minutes. It's again about 55 degrees in here. To glaze the top, I'm gonna use Minwax Dark Walnut Wood Stain. This is a little different than glazing with traditional water-based glaze. It has a much longer working time, and it also tints the paint. So this white paint is going to turn out to be more of a neutral color, like a taupe color, and at the same time it's going to accent all of those lines, this edge around here, and then all of the faux damage in the wood. I'm going to use one of these cheap Walmart disposable chip brushes to apply the stain. I'm going to work in sections, and then I'll come back with a rag and wipe it off immediately. I'm going to start with this small section here just to show kind of the basics, I guess. Since it's pretty cool tonight, it's in the 50s, this stain won't dry as fast as it normally does during the summer. So after I give you this example here, I'll work in larger sections. Take a clean rag. It's a good idea to have one that doesn't have like a lot of texture, like this is just a t-shirt rag. Usually what I do is wipe off the majority of the stain first, and fold the rag over the clean side. Again, go to the cleaner side. Basically, you just keep wiping it until you get everything how you want it. Get it to match the top. You see I'm overlapping here, and there's like a strong line here. The cool thing about using oil-based wood stain to glaze is that it re-wets itself. As long as you don't let it dry for like 24 hours, you can come back, and if you pay attention to this line, I'm going to come back and redo this. It's going to re-wet all of that. So I'm able to come back in the working sections, and you just come back across, and you're able to blend it back together. So this is the first rag that I used. I'm just going to double it over, try to get a clean side again. We'll use this one to mop all of this up, and then come back with a clean rag and get it the same color as this. You know, you see how I've got some right here? It doesn't matter because it'll re-wet itself. I can just come blend all of this in. A little lighter right here. Like I said, you can just re-wet it. Now it blends in better. So this is the stuff that I spread down this way, but obviously it didn't get in here. So if I was to wipe this, it's going to have like a weird texture. It's already kind of dry. So as I said, this will re-wet it. I'm just going to do it light. And you can do this infinite times. So it's really easy to practice because if you mess up, you just come back and apply more on it, and keep going until you get it how you want it. Ow, fuck. So that pretty much does it for the top. Now all I have left to do is to glaze the base. Something's going down. See the stain highlights these damage marks on here, just like on the top. Looks pretty cool. So I'm just going to continue down the sides and then hit those legs and I'll be done. Okay, that is that. I'm done with the glazing. So here's what it looks like after everything has been glazed. I just need to bust the poly out and give it a few coats of water-based polyurethane, and then I'll be done. For the top coat, I'm using Minwax polyacrylic. I decided not to use a lacquer because I don't want it to yellow too much. As long as you use this in thin coats, it's not going to yellow. The only thing you really have to worry about is putting hot plates and stuff on it. But I mean, anyone that's going to have a painted table is going to know that you have to take extra care of it. So water-based polyurethane is a great option to use for tables as long as you use it in thin coats. Lacquer is harder, but I don't want to have to worry about the yellowing quality, so I'm going to use this. Here's the cup that goes to the Wagner there. So I've got it cleaned out after I use the paint. It's got this little ring that goes here. If your Wagner sprayer ever spits like crazy for no reason, it's probably that's cracked. And I got this guy that goes on here like so, like that. And we got this guy. It's a little nozzle that determines the fan spray pattern, and it all goes on. And this piece screws on here. So pour it in the cup. Okay, this is the first. Oh. Okay, this is the first coat. You see how it looks kind of spackly? I just sprayed it on lightly. It'll flatten out. I'm going to do 3 light coats. It's better to do light coats than thick coats. And you do a few light coats, give it a light sanding, and then one final thicker coat, and it'll come out real smooth. You can see it already looks pretty smooth as it's starting to dry. So I'll let this dry for about 30 minutes since it's cooler today, and then I'll come back and do my second coat. Alright, it's been about 30 minutes. Of course, everything's dry. Look at that sheen. It already looks real good. Up close, though, you can see it's bumpy. So I'm going to do 3 more of these like misted coats. And when I come back and sand it with 320, everything will be nice and smooth, and I can put like a thicker coat on, and it just lays down better that way to get a nice smooth finish. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the second coat. Alright, so just another 30 minutes for this to dry, and I'll do another coat. Okay, at this point I've done 3 light coats of water-based polyurethane on the top. I didn't record the third coat because this is kind of getting redundant. And you can see how it looks. It's still got a little bit of an orange peel. You can kind of see that texture kind of looks like an orange peel. So I'm going to hit it with a 320 grit sanding block just to knock everything down, and then I'll spray the final coat of polyurethane and what I call a wet coat. Rather than it just being like a misted coat like I was doing before, I'm going to try and make sure it looks kind of glossy when it's wet. That way when it dries, it'll have a really smooth surface. Alright, so I've got a 320 grit sanding sponge. I like to use these rather than just sandpaper, because if you use sandpaper and you go like this, a lot of the times you're just pressing down with the tips of your fingers, so it doesn't really work evenly. So this is pretty much the only time that I'll use a sanding sponge. I don't really like to use it for distressing because they kind of get shredded up. So I'm going to use this sponge and just lightly sand across the top of everything just to knock it down, and then dust it off before I spray it again. I'm going to use this brush to knock off the sanding dust. So here's the final coat. So what I like to call it wet coat, because instead of spraying a fine mist, I spray it so it looks really wet. You can kind of see, you can see my lights and the reflection there. So since it's cool out, I'm going to let this dry for about an hour. And but this is pretty much it. I'll come back and show you all what it looks like after it has finally dried. Okay, here's the final results. You can see the sheen there on the top. Everything is nice and smooth. The glazing is all even. This is a bigger project than I normally do, but it was a ton of fun. I hope y'all got to learn something from the glazing. So let me know down in the comments what y'all think about this project. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell for notifications and all that, and I'll see y'all soon.